Hey guys, welcome back to sanvfx. Today we're going to take a look at a Maxscript tutorial. So we're creating this Maxscript series where we'll be looking at how we can automate different tasks in 3 years max using Maxscript. Okay, we'll be starting by creating our own tools which will help us in like small things, but that will just speed up our workflow. We'll be starting with a really simple script, and then slowly we'll start increasing our difficulty level as we go on in the series. So for today, we'll take a look at how we can actually start writing scripts and using it in our day-to-day workflow. Okay, this is aimed for beginners, but I still hope that you guys already know the basic concepts of programming. If you don't know how programming works, or if you don't know about coding at all, I would highly recommend you guys to check some programming concepts tutorial or video out there before watching this tutorial. If you don't know Maxscript, however, it's alright. We'll be going through Maxscript from the beginning, so it should be alright. If you know what is a variable, what are data types, loops, control statements, all these basics programming stuffs, then you're good to go. You can follow up this tutorial. Okay, so what are we doing today? We will start, since this is our first tutorial of this series, we will start with something really basic, and we'll see how we can use that script in different ways, like either create a button or create a UI, dock that UI into the Maxscript UI as well, and see how we can do that. Okay, so first, before we actually start coding it, let's see where do we start it. So if you go up to scripting, there are like Maxscript Listener and Maxscript Editor. These are the two things that you would need when you're writing a code. So Maxscript Editor is like a text editor where you write down all your codes and then save it out, or you can even evaluate it. If you go to Maxscript Listener, this is where all the things happen. So if you're working in Max and if you are doing some actions in here, it will display it. Let's say if I select this, it says select box. So that's our code for Maxscript. The thing is that not all the time it shows the correct script. Like as you can see here, action man and stuff, these are not actual codes that we'll be using when we are coding. And there's some stuff which the listener does not show at all. So we need to find different syntax and commands ourselves. Okay, and on the listener here we can write one-liner code and start executing it. So if I copy this here and paste it and enter it, it will select our box because that was the code that will select this box here. Okay, so this is basically you write a one-line code, enter it, and it will perform it. So this is just like a temporary thing. Normally I use this to test some of my commands if that works or not, and then I copy that into my Maxscript editor and write all the codes in here. Okay, you get better idea on how we use this listener versus Maxscript editor as we go on, but just to start with, that's what these does. Now the another really important stuff when you are starting scripting is the help file. It's always really handy, okay, especially when you are beginning, but doesn't matter. No matter how many years you have been working on Maxscript, it's been like 10-20 years, you will still be using the help file. So in order to access the help file, just press F1 on your key and it will open up a browser. Alright, so this is basically the help file for 3 years max. We can go to search here and then just search on scripting and customization, or we can also browse from here all the things about Maxscript. So this is really handy to know like different syntax, how to use different commands and stuff. Okay, as we go on, I'll show you like why I'm using this, where I'm using this, how I'm using this, and stuff like that. So you guys will have a better understanding how to use the help file as well. Okay, so if you go here, you also find some how to practical examples if you want to look at those and try to understand some of them. But probably we'll be using this search tool whenever we need any specific commands. Alright then, after this, let's go ahead and start writing our code. Okay, so what are we creating today? I will be doing really simple stuff. Basically, I'll just create a simple script that will adjust the pivot point of our object either on top, center, or bottom. Okay, this is a really simple script, but I want to show you guys how you can write a simple code and then just turn that into a scripted UI, or tuck that into a buttons like these up here. I already have some buttons for other scripts here, which are really handy, so you can just go ahead, click one button, and it does the trick. Okay, so we'll create that really simple script that will do change the pivot to top, bottom, and center. All right, let's go ahead and start writing our code. Okay, now in order to center the pivot, we need to first get our object. Okay, so as you can see here, every object has its own name, and as I did select $box001, I gave it this name here and asked it to select that box there. So if I want to select this sphere here, I will write select sphere, $sphere01, and it will select that. Same thing with the cone. Okay, now if I want to adjust the pivot of this box right here, what I can do is $box01 dot pivot, which will give us the access to the pivot of the object, is equals to, and I'll just give this box here because the pivot's value would be a 3-point value, which means that it's going to have X, Y, and Z value. Okay, so any objects, like it's like a vector, so it has 3 points, and when we are giving a 3 points value, we'll need this big bracket right here. And what I'll do is $box01 dot center dot x, comma $box01 dot center dot y, and then $box01 dot center dot z. Okay, all right, I'll explain it in a bit, but as you can see, the pivot is on the bottom right now, and if I hit enter, the pivot goes to the center. Okay, so what I did here, all I did was I asked to adjust the pivot of our box01 and change it to center on X, center on Y, and center on Z. Okay, so that's why it went ahead and center it up. Now if I go ahead and just go back here, and if I do min, that's minimum on Z, and hit enter, it'll go on the bottom. Same thing for the top. If I go ahead and do max enter, it'll go on top. Okay, that's really simple, right? So if I need to do the same thing on the sphere, all I need to do is swap this box01 with sphere. Okay, another easy way to do it, because I was typing this $box01 here and there every now and then, so there's like 1, 2, 3, 4 of them, so I don't want to do that, right? So what I'll do is I'll store this box into a sort of variable which I can use in place of these. Okay, so in order to do that, I'll just do like b, which is going to be our variable. And if you don't know what a variable is, I already said in the beginning that you might want to watch a programming concept tutorial. So I'll assign our box to a variable b. So if I do b $box01, so now I can access this box from that variable b. So if I type b and hit enter, it will return this box right here. Now I can do is b.pivot is equals to big bracket b.center.x, b.center.y, and b.center.z. Okay, this was really short. Now look at how short we have made it. Okay, so that really helps. All right, now right now I'm only specifically adjusting the pivot of this box right here. Okay, what if I need to do that for the other one? I don't want to go ahead and go c is equals to $sphere01 and then go ahead c.pivot and all that kind of stuff. I don't want to do that. What I want to do is I want to be able to select all of them and have all of theirs pivot get adjusted. Okay, now one of the way to access all the objects in the selection is by using just the $ and .pivot. So that means it is adjusting all the object that you are selecting right now. Okay, if I hit do this $.pivot, center.x, comma $.center.y, comma $.center.z. Okay, this will work on all the objects, but we'll have a problem right here. Okay, just to show you what the problem will be, I'll just set this to minimum here. If I hit enter, the pivot's still right there. Okay, so if I select this one here, that's where the pivot is. If I select this sphere, the pivot's still on the same place. If I select the torus, that's the same. Box, that's the same. So what it did is, rather than it adjusting the pivot individually, it just looked at the whole object, took the pivot as one, and then just set that pivot into one place. So that's not what we want. We want this pivot to be centered on individual objects based on themselves. Okay, now in order to do that, we need to play with loop. Okay, so I'll start using the Maxscript editor now, because as we go on starting using loops, we need to write few lines of code, and I'm not really a big fan of writing few lines of code in Maxscript listener. It does not work pretty well, but it's fine. You can still try it out. But whenever you're writing multiple line of code, then you start using Maxscript editor. Okay, and also this listener thing is just temporary. You can just you're not saving it from here anyway, so anything you want to save it, you want to use it later, you're typing it in Maxscript editor. Okay, now first thing I need to do is store all the selected objects into a variable, just as we did here with the box. I did b is equals to box 001. What I want to do is I want to swap this box 001 with all the objects in the selection. Okay, so let's go here in Maxscript editor, and I'll type in obj as a variable. It's the same as using b here. We can use any variable as long as it's not a max command. Okay, and I'll do selection as array. Okay, what it does is it takes all of the selection and stores it in obj. Okay, obj is, let me do a different variable actually. A is equals selection as array, and I hit enter, and if you can see that it has now listed all my objects that I was selecting. Okay, now how are you going to access these values actually? So once I run this, okay, let's go here first. A equals selection as array, so everything is stored in A. Now if I do a dot pivot is equals a dot center dot x, comma a dot center dot y, comma a dot center dot z. If I hit enter, it's gonna give me an error because we are not accessing the geometry by hitting A right here. We're accessing that array. So array is a collection of different objects. So by accessing A, we are not actually accessing these objects that are inside that array. We're actually accessing that array itself. So an array does not have a pivot point. So what can we do? What we can do is, let me just delete this. Instead of just typing in A, I'll type in 1 and 1, 1 and 1. Okay, so by saying 1, what I'm saying is go into that array and look at the index 1, which is this torus right here. Okay, so this means it will only adjust the pivot of that torus. This is index 1, and the sphere is on index 2, cone is on index 3, box is on index 4. If you guys have come up from a different programming language, you might find it a bit weird because all the other programs starts from index 0. So this torus would be on 0 on any other programs, most of them as I know, and the sphere would be on index 1. But in Maxscript, the first object is index 1, the second is 2, and so on and so forth. Now if I do this, and hit enter, it will adjust the pivot. Oh, sorry, I think I did something wrong here. Okay, that's all right. Yeah, so the torus pivot is now on center. Okay, if I do 2, it will center the pivot of our sphere. Sorry, I need to get rid of this one here. Okay, as you can see, it did that. Okay, so that's how we access the data inside array, by using index number and accessing individual of them. But I don't want to go ahead and type in 1, 2, 3 and all that stuff, because I could have like thousands of objects in my scene. Okay, now for that we need to use loop. Okay, so what I'll do here is I'll be using a for loop, and let's go ahead use a max help file quickly. Okay, let's go ahead for loop. Okay, now here is the for loop here, and it gives like a for variable name, there is a condition or something, and then do something. Okay, in the beginning it's like a little bit difficult to understand what it's doing, but you can look at the examples as well and try to understand it. I will go ahead and type in what I need to type in here, and then I'll try to explain it to you guys. Okay, so what I'll do is for items in obj do, and open and close parentheses. Okay, so what I did here is for items, so I declared another variable. This could be items, this could be A, this could be B, this could be C, or it could be your name, anything. So, okay, so I just named the item, it's just easy for me to understand. Items in obj, so it's taking a new variable which is empty right now, and from the object which was declared before and stored all of our selection in that, it'll go ahead, take the one object, so basically the first object, store it in items, and it will go ahead and start performing anything that we type in between these parentheses. Okay, and once it's done, finished all these lines inside the parentheses, it goes back up here, takes the second object, store it in items, and then start running the code again. So as long as there's as many objects out there, it will run for that many times. So we have 4 in there. So first it will take torus, store it in items, perform all the tasks inside the parentheses, goes back up, take the spheres, store it in items, perform all the tasks, go back up, take the box, do the same, goes back up, takes the cone, do the same, and once it's over, like our obj only has 4 objects, once it's done it for 4 times, it will stop it. Okay, so now we can, since we have already used a different variable and this individual item is stored in that, we can just use items.pivot is equals to items.center.x, items.center.y, and then items.center.z. Alright, if we do this, it should center the pivot on all selected objects. Let's go ahead and test that if it actually works or not. Okay, so as you can see, there are a few objects whose pivot are not on center. So let's go ahead and select all of these and run this code. Now in order to evaluate this code, you can actually be in that editor and hit Control E, or you can also go to Tools and Evaluate All. Or if you want to just evaluate single line of code, you can go to the line and hit Shift Enter, and it will only evaluate that single line. Okay, in our case we will be evaluating all of it, so let's go to Tools and Evaluate All. Alright, so if you look into the Maxscript data, there is no anything returned in red. That means there was no error. If I go ahead and select my box, the pivot is centered. Select my sphere, it's centered. On cone it's centered as well, and on torus it's centered. Okay, now let's go ahead and set all of their pivot to top. Select all of them. I'll just swap this to top, or let me do this. I'll just go ahead and copy this, paste this here, and change the Z to top. Okay, now if I run off this code, what it will do is store all this into obj. It will go ahead, perform this task, center the pivot first, and then go ahead and pivot it to top. Now since I'm only doing it on top, I don't need to again evaluate this line here because it's centering the pivot. I don't need that. Okay, so rather than doing that, I'll just select these and then hit enter. So I'm only evaluating these, but we just had a issue because I just typed in top here. It was meant to be max. Sorry, it's meant to be max. Okay, and shift enter. It should be alright now. As you can see, they're all on top. Okay, now we can again copy this code, go down here, paste it, and change this to minimum, and then I can just run this code. Okay, now they're all on bottom. Okay, now if you are confused on why I didn't run this code out here every time, because when I run it once, the obj already had all the selected objects, that's these 4. Okay, so it will only perform on that. So in case if I have, let's say, like another additional object in here, and even though if I select this and just run this code, it's not going to work on that geosphere because this object only has those 4 objects. So if I want that as well, I need to rerun this one as well. So what I can do is copy this here, paste this out. I can just select all of these and run it. First, let me just run this code right here and see if it's actually adjusting the geosphere. No, it's still in center, but on all of them it's on bottom. So in order to adjust that geosphere as well, I need to run it along with the obj course selection as array. Shift enter and all good. Okay, now we have 3 different scripts here. Selection, right? Okay. So we have 3 different scripts if you just divide it into 3 different parts. One will center the pivot, one will pivot to bottom, the other will pivot to top. Okay. Now, when we open this, we're just selecting individual stuff and then evaluating just that to do whatever we want. Either we want center, top, or bottom. But we don't want to open this script every time we need to do this and select those and evaluate those. Rather than that, we would want to create a button which will just do this center or top or bottom. Okay, now in order to do that, it's really easy actually. If you go to customize user interface, from there you can create a new toolbar and then you can start docking in your script. Okay, this is the customize user interface. If you go to toolbar and if you create new, I can name it scripts and hit OK. That's already one there. Okay, so create something else. Maxscript tools. Okay, now it opens a little window right here. So this is the toolbar where you can start adding in buttons. Okay, now if you just go ahead and drag and drop these codes in there, it'll create a little icon there. Now I can right click that and then edit button appearance. I'll just make it a text and name it center. Okay. Okay. Now I can drag in the other one. Where is that? Okay. Edit button appearance, name it top, and drag and drop this one as well. Edit button appearance and name it bottom. Okay. Now we have this little toolbar here that does these 3 things for us. So let's go ahead and test this. Let me select just this box right now and hit center. It center the pivot to the top and bottom. It's working. Let's select all the object and do the center. Yep, all the object has their pivot on center. If I select all of them, hit top, all the object has their pivot on top, and do the same with the bottom. It's on bottom. Okay, now it's working. Now you can also tuck this up here and have it like that if you prefer it that way, or you can have it as a floating window like this. Okay, I prefer to have it up there. Okay, so that's 3 buttons there, which now you can just easily, whenever you are working on different objects, you can just select some objects, hit the center, and it will center the pivot. Alright, now that's one way to use our read and script, but creating these kind of buttons for this small task, if we have lots and lots of scripts, we'll end up having lots of those kind of buttons there. Okay, so this is not the user way to create these buttons for this small stuff. Okay, one more thing I would like to point out is if I right click here and edit macro script here, now you see that the code that we dragged up there and this one looks a bit different. Okay, this part here is similar, but there is some additional stuff written there. So this is basically macro script. So if you actually write these codes down and then copy it on top here, then what it does, it will convert our script into a macro script. What that means is then we can go to customize user interface. I don't know if it's going to take more time again. Okay, and if you go to toolbar, and as it says category drag and drop, if you go down to drag and drop here, there are lots of scripts there. So three of them would be these. Okay, so basically macro 9 is this one, as you know, the top name here. So this one is the center, and if you edit macro script, macro 10 would be our top and bottom. So this is how you access. So if you want to write this script and give it to somebody else, if you do this, if he drags this file into the max, then it will go and store in here, and he can go in there and drag and drop it and create a button out of itself. Okay, I don't know if you guys understand what I just said, but let me do this. Okay, let's go ahead to Maxscript series, and then actually Maxscript name 1, and then change this to Maxscript series. Alright, and if I go ahead and save this file somewhere, save as, let me just save it into desktop for now, or I'll just save it in E drive here, script. Okay, save it. Well, let me open up my browser here and go to my E drive. Alright, now there's our script right here. So if I drag and drop this thing into my Max here, it didn't open up the script or it didn't do anything. But if I go to toolbar here, maybe I'll have to refresh this. If I open up the user interface again, and then remember Maxscript series, if I go here, I should be able to find that Maxscript series category there, and there is our Maxscript 1. Okay, that's how you write a tool that you can give it to somebody else, and they can drag and drop it in Max and go to toolbars, find it there, and drag and drop it into the toolbar right here. Okay, so that's what a Maxscript is. Okay, and rather than remembering these stuff, the easiest way to do is just write a code, drag and drop it to a toolbar. It'll create that. Right click, edit macro script, and you'll get that thing already there. And all you need to do is change the category, change the name of the Max script, and that's it. Okay, hope you guys get that. Hope that makes sense. Let's move ahead. Okay, now what I want to do is, rather than creating those 3 different buttons, I want to create one single UI where I can access, where I can have 3 different buttons which will do these individual items, not a toolbar like this. Okay, so I'll just delete these, right click and delete it, or if you don't want this toolbar itself, you can just close it like this. Okay, now in order to wrap this into a tool, we need to start creating a UI. So we can use the rollout command to wrap this into a scripted UI. So I'll just quickly show you how to do it. So I'll just type in rollout and give it a variable name so that we can access that rollout later on. So for now, I'll just type in Maxscript series and just give it a title as well, Max pivot change. Okay, so that's the title for our rollout. And if I go ahead, open and close this, and for now just disregard these codes here. We will be copying and pasting it later on. And now if I evaluate this to evaluate I was not meant to evaluate all tools, evaluate liner selection, it says rollout Maxscript series, but there's nothing nothing had just happened. So in order to create this rollout now, I need to type in create dialog, which will create the window for us, and Maxscript series. Okay, so that's why I use this name up here so that I can call it later on as well. So Maxscript series, and this could be anything basically. I could type in A and do A here as well. So this is a variable, it could be anything as long as the color of this does not change. As you can do when I type in AS, the color change, so that means something for 3ds Max. So we don't want to do that. Okay, let me just change to Maxscript series. Now if I run this, hit shift enter, now there is one little window up here which does not have anything yet, but we'll go ahead and create some buttons in there. But as you can see, it created a little window that has a close button in here. Okay, now I can just close this. What I'll go is go inside these parentheses. This is where all the things will happen that needs to be performed through that window there. Okay, so I'll create some buttons. So the command is button, and I need to give it a variable name so that I can access it later. So I'll just name it button1, btn1, or I can name it B or C or anything, just so that you're not confused. Let's name it button1 and give it a title, what it will be displayed on the button. So that will be top. Okay, and if I run this code now, as you can see, there is a button called top, which does not do anything at the moment because we haven't assigned anything to that. Okay, let's create our other buttons as well. Button btn2 center. Okay, if I run this, it's center right there. Okay, I can create one more button, btn3, and that will be bottom. Shift enter. Now you can see. Okay, now the problem here is like these 3 buttons have different sizes, which I don't really like it. So I'll just give it a width as well. Width probably like 80. Let me see if the 80 is fine. Shift enter. Okay, it is pretty small actually. Let me go ahead and put it something like 150. Okay. Oh, sorry, I typed the width wrong. There we go. Okay, so that's too big now, obviously. I'll just go and test with 80. Okay, that looks alright. I'll go ahead and give it some width to center as well. The same thing, and for the bottom as well, width 80. Okay, so these are flags actually. So that's why we use typed in the width and hit colon. So these are basically flags of this button. We can also have like height and give it a height and so on. There are some other flags as well, which you can find in Maxscript help file anyway. Okay, now if I run this code, so you can see all 3 buttons are same size now. Okay, now we need to tell these buttons to perform certain tasks when they are pressed. Okay, now in order to do that, let's go down here. Now there is a command which says on button pressed do something, or on this button pressed do something. Okay, so on, we need for the first one is btn1. On btn1 pressed do. Now we can go ahead and copy all of these items in there. So I can just go ahead, open and close parentheses, copy these items here. So basically, so these 2 parentheses that we just made, so when the button is pressed, it will perform all those tasks that are inside these parentheses. Okay, we need to do the same with the others as well. So on btn2 to pressed do, open and close the parentheses, go ahead and copy these. And now if I notice it, I actually copied the center one on the top one, so probably I'll just change this to minimum, and on the center one I'll just copy the same old one, so that's the center. Now the last one for the bottom, on btn3 press do, copy paste this and change this to max. Sorry, is that minimum? Actually I was meant to do this max. Alright, now I can just go ahead and delete all of these here. Okay, now if I run this code, now we have this button. Select this one here, bottom, center, and top. I can do this on all of them. Top, yeah, it's working. Do the center, it's working as well. If I do bottom, okay, it's working as well. Cool. Now I can do copy all of these, drag and drop into these into one of the toolbar here. Okay, and if you click that, it will open this UI here, and then you can top, center, or bottom. That's a cool way to do it as well. Okay, now that we have created our basic rollout, let's go ahead and see some issues that we are facing right now. So if I run this code here, it's opening up this UI. If I run this again, it's opening up another UI, and if I keep running it, it'll keep on creating these multiple windows here, which we really don't want. We just want one window to be open, and whenever we run this code again, we want it to close the other one first and then open the new one. Okay, now in order to do that, we need to destroy the dialog. Okay, now what I need to do is destroy dialog, and remember our rollout here, that's Maxscript series. Type in the same thing, script series. Okay, now let me run this thing here again, and let me evaluate this code. Now it closed that and then open the new one, tools, evaluate all. Alright, try it again. Okay, it closed the old one and opened the new one. Okay, now let's say this one's closed. I don't have any window open at the moment, and if I run this code now, it did open up. But what might happen sometimes is when it's trying to destroy the dialog, it can't find this file because it's not been created yet. Okay, if I go ahead and save this file, save this script, I'll just save it in E drive, pivot changer. Okay, and let me open up a new Max file. Okay, here is our new Max. Let's go to scripting and then Maxscript editor. Okay, let's go here and open up the file that we just saved. That's pivot changer, and let me also open up Maxscript listener here. Okay, now if I run this code here, it gave me an error right there, and we really don't want those errors because that could just end up making our script to not work at all. So what is that error actually? The problem with that error is that it couldn't find that Maxscript series in there because we have never run this code before in this new file, and it does not know what that Maxscript series is. So when it just read it in the first line, it couldn't recognize that dialog, so it couldn't destroy it. That's why it threw it that error. Now in order to prevent that, we can use a command called try and catch. If I do try to destroy this dialog, so I gotta put it in parentheses, then catch it. Sorry, catch it. So what I'll do is it'll try to run that code, and if it can't run that code, or if there's some error, it will just ignore it. It will just catch it basically. So it's basically just try whatever you want to try, put it in the parentheses, and then catch it. Okay, this kind of things is useful for destroy dialog, and there are other specific stuff when there's like let's say you're running the script on some selected objects, and if there are no objects, it will give you an error. Then you might want to like use it inside the try catch to not throw any errors at all. Okay, so in this case it's pretty useful. So if I run it again, it will not give us any error at all. Okay, so let's go back to our old file here and then do the same thing here. Try catch. Okay, now that we've done that, the next thing we'll do is, let's see, let's run this code here, and okay, when I select the objects, when I hit top, it'll set the pivot to top. What if I don't have any object selected? If I hit top, nothing, obviously nothing happens because we don't have any object selected. Same thing with center and bottom. Okay, so what if you give this script to someone and they don't know what's going on with the script, how to use the script? Okay, let's say they don't know if you have to select the objects or not. When they click, nothing happens. So what I want is, if the user clicks on this button and there is no object selected, I want it to throw up a message saying select some objects. Okay, in order to do that, I need to go into these individual button here. So on button pressed 1, we have set our variable to obj. Okay, so let me just select this here, and let me copy this here and hit this. That's empty right now. Let me select some of them and enter. So it has some objects in there now. Now if I hit obj.count, it'll give me the number of objects inside that array. So what if I don't have anything in that array? Let me run this code again. It's empty, so if I do obj.count, it's 0. So I can use that condition to say if obj.count is equals to 0, then say select some objects, else perform those tasks. Okay, so in order to do that, I'll type in here if obj.count is equals to 0, then now I need to use parentheses and type in message box, and I need to type in message here, select some objects. Okay, so what message box does is it will just create another pop-up window that will have these texts displayed on them. Okay, now the reason why I use this parenthesis, actually it's not necessary in this case because we only have one line of code. So I could just do this actually. Let's just go there and do it that way. Okay, but it's really good practice to use anything inside parentheses, because if you have multiple lines, you need to use those inside the parentheses. Okay, now if obj.count equals 0, then message box, now else do these. Okay, so I need to put those into the parentheses as well. Okay, just these 4 and stuff. Okay, so if you go and click on any of these parentheses, you know where it's ending. So the blue, so it's ending right there, and this one is for our on button press, so we want everything to be inside it, and this one is closing this else. So basically it will check if the obj.count is equals 0. If it's 0, it will display select some object. If it's not 0, it will go ahead and perform this task. Hope that makes sense. Let's test this now. Let's evaluate this code and press the top. Now it says select some objects. If I select some objects and top, it will perform that. Okay, now I just got to do the same thing on the other ones. So I can just copy paste that, but I'll go ahead and type in if obj.count is equals 0, then message box select some objects, now else, and now see how I didn't use any parentheses after then, but since after else I have multiple lines of code, I have to use parentheses at any cost. Okay, so these are the things that I want to be inside the else. So parenthesis open up here and then close it up. Same thing on the bottom one here. If obj.count is equals to 0, then message box select some objects, else. Alright, now if I run this code, center, it's doing that. If I don't select anything, it will tell me to select some objects. Okay, that's a pretty good way to let the user know if they are doing something wrong, if they are not selecting objects when they have to be selecting some objects. So sometimes you might want to create scripts which can only perform on one object. So when they have more than one object selected, you can throw a message box saying just select only one object, and so on. It's really useful. Okay, now we have made our rollout. We have made some message box displaying what the users are not doing it right. We created our dialog, we destroyed the dialog, and so on. So at this point, you are ready to go ahead and write your own script and be able to use it. You already know how to transfer these scripts into those buttons. You already know how to transfer these small codes into this one big rollout where you can have all those buttons doing individual tasks for you. You already know how to create a macro script and access it from the user interface menu and create a new toolbar and drag it up there. Okay, now that we know all of that, there's one little thing that I would like to talk about, which is the dockable UI. So we already have this UI. Now, the thing is, it's floating right now. Okay, let's say I want it to be docked onto left or right or something like that. In order to do that, we can do it using CUI, and basically that's our dialog bar. So for what we need to do first is register it as a dialog bar. Okay, so what I do is CUI dot register dialog bar and give ours the same name here. Okay, use the same name. So it'll take that dialog and register it as a dialog bar. Now all I need to do is dock it onto the left. So CUI dot dock dialog bar, and if you don't know like where am I getting all these commands from, it's again the help file. If I hit F1, I can go here. What was that? I can go here, scripting, and then type in dock dialog, and it will give me those like CUI dock dialog bar. There should be register dialog bar as well, and so on. Okay, dock dialog bar, and I need to give it the same name again, Maxscript Series V, and then I can mention a style, which if you go to the help file again, there are like a bunch of different style, which is left, top, right, and bottom. So you can dock it to any of the sides. Okay, so I'll just go ahead and do it for left right now. So hash CUI underscore dock underscore left, and if I evaluate this code, now you can see this is now docked in here. You can also make it a floater bar again. You can probably, you'll have to do this to be able to dock it there. Okay, now the problem is if I run this code multiple times, as you can see what's happening there, there is 4 different dockable UI there. So why is that happening? We do have a destroy dialog on top of our script. We should be deleting it, right? Well, how it works is once you register it as a dialog bar, it can't be destroyed using this destroy dialog. So what we need to do is we need to unregister this. Okay, so what I can do on top here, add another try, CUI dot unregister dialog bar and Maxscript Series, then catch it. Okay, so what this line does, I'll just show you guys. Let me run the script. Now you can see it's stuck there. I'll just run this line right here. So tools, just evaluate that. You see how it changed to a floating from that dockable? So that's what this line does. This unregistered dialog bar will unregister this as that dockable bar, and then now I can destroy it using this command right here. Okay, so if I run this, that's working. If I run this again, it will destroy that and then open up a new one, so we won't have multiple copies of those dockable UIs there. Okay, great. Now we have even looked at how to dock our created UIs. That's pretty good. That's a good stuff for a start, and now I hope you guys can go ahead and start writing your own script. Write simple stuff, try to find things on a help file. You can also use the Maxscript listener to find what to do, which command to use to basically like select objects or clear selections, simple stuff. And if you don't know something, you can go ahead and find it in the help file. If you can't find it in the help file, Google is a good place to find stuff as well. Just write in your stuff, and I'm sure there are lots of people who have already asked the same questions in different forums, and there's already an answer for it. Okay, and if you are really having trouble, you can also let me know, and I'll try to get back to you guys as soon as possible. Alright guys, this is it. Before actually end this script, one thing I'd like to go ahead and do is convert this script to open up every time we open up 3ds Max. Okay, so let's go ahead and file, save as, let's just save it as a pivot changer, save it, yes. Now what I want to do is go to my browser here, copy this script here, and what we want to do is go down here. What I'll do is %app data %, and let's go back to app data here, go to local, browse your 3ds Max directory, whichever version you have, and you go to scripts and startup, and if I paste it right here, it should basically open up every time we open up Max. Let me just go ahead and try it. I'm not 100% sure about this, but I'm sure that's where we copy. If not, we might have to copy it into program files and into the Max directory. Let's just fingers crossed that this would work. Yep, so this did work, and it's now open up every time you start your Max. Great. That was a great start, guys. I hope to see you guys soon, and we will go ahead and take it a step further in our next lessons. We'll start creating more useful tools. We start accessing materials stuff. We start creating geometries, and so on and so forth. Hope to see you guys soon. Hope this helped you guys. Just write down a comment, like the video. Let me know what you guys feel like. And if you have any confusion, I'll try my best to get back to you guys and give you some suggestions. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.